Hi, guys, and welcome back to Chit Chat with Two T's. I am your host, as usual, jvaldez, counseling psychologist. And with me today, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Miss Darcel de Vlugt. Hi, Darcel. I want
Hello.
all the applause, all the applause.
And thank you for saying my surname so very correctly. I love it.
Oh, yay! I mean, I may make, one or two mistakes spelling it, but the pronunciation, I have one lock. I have
Thank
one
you.
lock. So, thank you. And with us today, moving from behind the camera to in front of it, of course, my co-creator and producer, Ricardo Mitchell. Hey, Ricardo, let the people hear your voice now. Let them hear your voice.
What, this voice?
Ooh.
I know, right?
Okay, we don't want people hearing your voice anymore. I don't want any
Save
private
that.
messages from anybody. He's taken, ladies. Yeah. Anyway, so that's before we get into it, I mean, I could tell everybody a lot about you, but maybe I always think these things are best when they come from the individual. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about you.
Oh my goodness. So where shall I start? I'll give you the quick rundown because I think anybody who's familiar with me, this is sort of the lead-in. It's like, hi,
Yes.
I'm Darcel. I am from Trinidad and Tobago. I was born here, but I was raised in the Middle East and Mediterranean. I grew up in first Israel, then Syria, but spent most of my childhood on the island of Cyprus in the Mediterranean. So I am as much Cypriot as I am Trini. That also is home to me. And I
Wow.
studied fashion design at London College of Fashion. I lived in London for 6 years and I moved back to Trinidad unintentionally, came home for a break. It's 12 years later, I'm still here in 2010. Some people know me for my design. Some people know me as a public speaker. I'm also an ambassador for the skin condition vitiligo, which I've been living with since I was 5 years old, which is all kind of tied into the whole living in Cyprus and my
Right.
life experiences. So it's all one big thing. But I can add something new to my biography that
Please,
everybody
please, and thanks.
I was a single mother of one. I am now a wife and mother of three. And I'll say that
Wow.
proudly.
Congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations.
you so
Much
much.
love to the
Very
husband and
recently.
the daughters.
Thank
Yes.
you so much. Thank you. So I'm getting used to that new role to add to the portfolio, but so far so good.
I'm happy to hear that. I just learned a lot about you that I didn't know in that little two minutes there. So I mean, growing up in Cyprus, what was that like? All I know about Cyprus is Miss Universe, like Miss Cyprus. That's all I know. I don't know anything else. So please share.
Cyprus is I think I love it more now that I'm not there, and it's a little bittersweet.
Right.
I wish I had appreciated it more when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
But I lived there from the age of 5 until I graduated school at 18. So I'm a
Wow.
fluent Greek speaker. I speak Greek as well as I speak English. Little out of practice because not too many people in Trinidad speak Greek.
Right.
But I do speak with my friends as often as possible, and I make sure that I speak Greek to them, even if they're speaking English back to me. Cyprus is a beautiful island that is about twice the size of Trinidad. They actually made it on the map. They're not like a little dot on the globe. Very important naval base historically because of its location. So there is a little bit of there's a British Army base there. So there's
Okay.
actually quite a lot of expat presence, a lot of foreigners, international tourism, that kind of thing. And what I love about Cyprus is every town has its own personality. So whatever you
Right.
want in Cyprus, there is a town that you can get it. If you want to go for nightlife, we've got Cyprus for that. If you're a retiree and you want a nice, quiet beach kind of living, we've got
There's a
Cyprus for
Cyprus
that.
for that.
You
Yes.
want to do some nature trails, trekking. Cyprus has mountains for skiing and they've got beaches for bathing.
Wow.
And you can go up to the top of the mountain in quote unquote winter and it's snow, but then you look out and you see the beach and there's people on the beach as well. So it's really great. There's a lot of like I said, there's a lot of Brits there. There's a lot of Middle Eastern people there, and there's quite a lot of Russians there as well. So that would kind of
Oh
be the main
wow.
groupings of people that you would have there. And half of Cyprus historically, so this is a sore point for many Greek Cypriots. But half of Cyprus is occupied by Turkish Cypriots. So there is a green line. It's an actual green line on the ground. The green line that has been drawn that separates northern Cyprus from the Greek side, and it counts as it's an independent island, but they count themselves as Turkish Cypriot or Greek Cypriot. So it's kind of like which side of the alliance do you fall on? Very sensitive, sore topic that I don't really like to touch because I like everybody. But yeah.
Yes. I mean, thank you so much for sharing that. You are truly a Cypriot and you're truly an international citizen based on what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes, and you came back home and you said it was unintentionally, but I mean, it seems like it was pretty intentional on God's part. So, good for you.
God definitely had other plans while I was trying to make plans. So, it all worked out.
Usually the case. As it usually does. However, it works out. So thank you so much for saying yes to being here. I'm super excited for my viewers. I mean, I am a real life fangirl of Darcel because but anyway, we'll get into that. So which brings us to our first segment of what's in your cup. So I have this actually beautiful thermos thingy that my god sister gave me for my birthday, and I love it. It actually tells you the temperature of what's inside, but I mean, I have to take it off in order to drink from it, so that part is off. But I thought it was really, really cool, and even though it's still very hot, see my steam is rising. It's cool to the touch, so this is good for somebody who's very clumsy like myself. So this is what's in my cup. I have a little French vanilla happening today. Nice. I think I deserve to pick me up. So this is what's in my cup. Maybe you could share with us what's in yours.
So I am using a gratitude cup today. What does it say? Fill each day with gratitude, which I think is a really good way to start Monday. This cup was given to me by my last client before I got married. I say client, maybe somebody listening might not know, I'm a bridal designer. I design custom bridal and special occasion wear as my main gig. But yeah, so my last bride in June, she gave this cup to me to say thank you. And she's just a ray of sunshine. I actually call her sunshine on steroids. If she hears this, she will know who she is. But she really does bring a lot of joy into the room. And it was lovely working with her. So she dropped off this little gift for me after her wedding to say thank you. And I just like the appreciation that you get from clients. So I do use this cup every now and then to remind myself when things are a little tough in the studio. You know, there are people who appreciate you. So it's nice indeed. As a creative to get that reinforcement, you know. And in my cup, I have good old classic Lipton tea. And I'm very, very, very classic with that. There's a reason for it. It's not actually so much the tea itself, but Mr. Ricardo there knows exactly why I drink tea as much as I do. So Ricardo and I go back a long way. I don't know how long have we been friends now, Ricardo? Like
carry the one.
Yeah.
Long.
More than 10.
I think we're closer to 2 decades than we are to 1 decade. I'm not too sure. That just gave away like part of my age. But anyway.
No one knows. Forever 21.
But Ricardo is very important to my spiritual journey. He has been a real fundamental part of my coming back to the Lord and walking with the Lord now. Well, when we first met and we were hanging out, I could honestly tell you there was nothing about the Lord in it. It was real party lifestyle kind of thing. Yes, I'm busting some files.
Shots fired. Bust it, Gil. Bust it.
It's fine. But it's really great to see how God has taken us through the seasons, because he went from being like a lineman buddy to like, you know, party vibes or whatever, hanging out in a big group of friends and everything, to actually now like that's my brother. That's my real brother in Christ, a mentor, spiritual advisor, somebody that you can talk to. And it's great to see how that relationship morphs. But the story with the tea is that when I was sort of having my internal spiritual crisis, Kato was already way many steps ahead of me. But he had asked me if I talked to God. And I said to him, well, who has time? Like, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
And he reminded me about, how some people would tie a string around their finger to remind them to do something.
Yes.
So the task that he gave me, the challenge he presented to me, was to find something that I do every day, possibly that I do for about 10 minutes, something that takes 10 minutes. And he's like, during that 10 minutes, use that thing as a reminder to just touch base with God. Like, just have a little conversation with him about your day. Little did I know at the time that Ricardo was actually leading me to learn how to pray. But it sounds a little more palatable when you say have a conversation,
Right.
So
Yeah.
at the time I was living in London, and of course, Brits are huge tea drinkers. If I had grown up in Trinidad in this heat, I probably would not be a drinker of hot drink. But yeah, London tea. So I was like, okay, what do I do every day? 10 minutes, I make tea. And I'm really basic with my tea. I like my Lipton. I'm not a green tea, chai tea, raspberry, but whatever. Give me Lipton.
And that body frills.
No. 2 sugars and a milk. And yeah, so that became sort of my time with God. And it became so natural and normal that for the most part, a whole day cannot pass without me having a cup of tea. Even if I don't want tea, is more about I don't want to say the word ritual, but it is more about
that's the routine, the tradition.
Yeah. And because it serves as because a lot of times I make tea and it just sits there and goes cold. Because I make the tea and I go and get started with work, and the tea sits on top of the counter. But the point is, during the making of the tea, in my mind, I'm kind of like having this conversation, hey, this is my day. This is what I need to do. Can you just come into this space? Can you help me guide my steps? So it really, really helps. So that's usually what you'll find in my cup if I'm not drinking water or having a glass of wine.
I'm there with you with the wine. I'm working on the water. But I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think it's important for us to remember that, the community is that, you have friends who will lead you where you need to be. So I'm so grateful that you had Ricardo for that, but I'm even more grateful that you were open.
Yes.
Because
and he
that's
knew
part of it
too.
too.
The way as well. Like he didn't, a lot of people will, they call us Bible bashers or whatever. And they'll be like, just read your Bible and pray, But very few people will actually take your hand and walk you through it if you're not at that level. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, by him saying, have the tea, have the conversation, it was something normal. Like it didn't take anything
and
out
practical.
of me. Exactly. And then over time, of course, the Holy Spirit moves and you want more, you want to go deeper for yourself. And it does eventually, I call it planting seeds. So it does eventually lead you to a place where you are actively praying, you are actively in the Word.
It bears fruit.
He didn't need to throw the Bible at me for it to happen. So I'm really grateful for that. And yeah.
As am I. That's a beautiful testimony. And thank you for sharing that with us. I know it's just a small part, but a big part of your story. So we really appreciate that. So that's a little bit of what's in your cup, literally and figuratively. But can you tell us a little bit more on the figurative side in terms of what's going on with you? What's in your cup? What's happening right now?
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
So, before I got married 3 weeks ago.
Woo! Congratulations! Every time you say it, I'll say that.
I've been successfully wifing for 23 days now. It's been good.
23 days, no accidents. Congrats.
Yeah, I mean, I officially have been married longer than Kim Kardashian's 3rd wedding, I think.
Look at you! Fire and shots wild. Kim might want you for her 5th wedding. Stop it.
Showing up these celebrities and thing out here. But no, it's really been great, but it has definitely been a journey. Because my husband, my husband.
Your husband!
My husband, it was my boyfriend and then it was my fiance for the longest while. So now I have to get used to my husband. My husband has 2 daughters prior to our marriage, and I have 1. So now coming together as a blended family, the last 3 weeks have been really learning curve for us. School just started, and all 3 girls are in 3 different parts of the country for school. So what's currently in my cup is, number 1, learning to live with a bunch of other people rather than just my daughter. Managing the day efficiently so that everybody gets their needs met and gets to do what they have to do, as well as myself and him being able to get our needs met as well. Because sometimes you're just pouring into the children so much that like by the end of the day, we're completely burnt out and there's no time for each other. But I think we make a conscious effort to really make that happen, because and that a lot of that comes from our walk with the Lord, because we did have the premarital counseling and guidance from our pastors leading up to the wedding. But not only leading up to the wedding, we come from a church that believes that dating is not for fun. Courting is intentional. So if you are going to date, it has to be with intention. So from the get-go, when we first expressed interest in each other, the good thing from coming from the same church is that our pastors were able to walk with us and guide us even through that courting process. So we had a lot of foundation laid for us before engagement, before marriage date was even set. So, a lot of people, and that's one of our things our Reverend says. She says, a lot of people set the wedding date and then they try to rush counseling because they have the deadline of the date.
Exactly.
They're not even ready, but because they're trying to just reach this date, this wedding date, and they might overlook like a lot of red flags or things that still need work. But if you're doing it throughout the courting process, then by the time you reach engagement, you're kind of aware of what you're going into in marriage. So we've been using those skills and that knowledge since becoming husband and wife. And now yes, we're married. We have completed the moving process, so combining our homes, and now school has started, so the kids have settled in. So now my next thing that's in my cup is getting back to my clients at a level that still allows me to take care of all the other balls that are in the air. So that's the
a
next
lot
thing.
happening, sis.
Yeah. My wedding season is coming up. Christmas is usually a big wedding season again. And I still have the last of my COVID brides who had to reschedule their weddings.
Right.
So there's some clients who've now been with me for almost 3 years. So I'm kind of getting them off the roster as well, which is very bittersweet, but yeah.
So you have that is quite a lot that you have going on, but I love your intentionality, and I love that you use that word. I think a lot of people, it's a coming back, I guess, because that was kind of, a lot of people have the view that is always how it was meant to be in terms of dating. You date with intention. If marriage doesn't happen, okay, things didn't work out, but the aim is that, this is where we're headed. So it's really nice to see somebody, young in the dance. You're not so old. You're not old as Ricardo or anything. So so it's nice to see young people having that view and working that way, because I could really tell that your focus was on the marriage and not the wedding.
Yes,
a lot of people do that.
We did have, there was focus on the wedding, but I would say probably,
of course,
both myself and my husband, for us, after a while, for me primarily because this is my industry, but there was a sort of more business focus on the wedding. So it was like, okay, people know me through my brand, VDV, Van de Vlugt, which is the original family surname. But it was like, okay, here what? VDV is getting married. Like the lady who designs all the brides is now a bride. So there was that business side of it, which was like, okay, here what? If we're not eloping, we actually need to be intentional about this wedding. So it was I don't think I was a classic bride in terms of like getting all up in my feelings. It was really the business of planning the wedding because of the way it had to be visually and the way that, and I don't mean in a bridezilla way. For me, it was more not what I want. I was finally able to put together my dream team of vendors after working on everybody else's dream wedding. I work with so many amazing people within the industry, and now is the opportunity to handpick everybody that I would like to come together to create this project. I saw it as a project, and see what the dream team could do. So that's what I call them, is the dream team. And this was like the ultimate dream team kind of thing. I got everybody I wanted from jump, except for two areas I did not get who I wanted, but I got wonderful recommendations for that. But it was really great because there's people who've worked together before, people who've worked with me before. So certain things went in a way that maybe other brides may not have wanted it like that. But knowing how I work and who I am, like it went great. For example, on the morning of my wedding day, and there are videos circulating about this, and people will say she's crazy. But in addition to making my dress, I did 6 dresses of guests at my wedding as well.
Girl!
Yeah. So I did the gowns for 6 of my guests. A couple of them are fashion people, a couple of them were family members and previous clients who are friends. And on the morning of my wedding, I haven't slept the night before because I was just up steaming and making sure everything was okay, like I do for my bride.
Ma'am.
No. It's all good. We're going to talk about mental health, right? And then on the morning
Which you already have me questioning.
Sometime around 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, my best friend, who's my maid of honor, she was, and she's also in the industry. She's a photographer, but she wasn't allowed to work on my wedding day. So she was maid of honor.
But you were.
So she's taking a power nap on the couch and the kids were asleep and it's like 5 in the morning and the first makeup artist is arriving at 6:45. And one of the final guests, one of my friends who I was dressing for the wedding, she was actually supposed to come by me to get ready. She's not bridal party, just a guest. But she needed lacing up and she didn't have anybody who could do it for her. And I get real picky. I'm like Erica Badu. I'm sensitive about my stuff. So I told her, come by me. I was like, yeah, come at 10:30. It's fine. Because like, I got to go into makeup at 11. Like, because I won't be doing anything, obviously. You know?
Right. So you're just a bride.
So I was like looking at her dress at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, you know, it's really, I love those hours. Like when everybody is asleep. Because that's when I can really think and be inspired. So I'm looking at her dress on the mannequin. Mine's all done. I'm ready to go. I'm looking at hers and I'm like, this could be better. And I started unpicking it and I started undoing stuff. And then my maid of honor wakes up and she looks at me and she's like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm just finishing Candy's dress. And she's like, no, you are unpicking Candy's dress. What are you doing? She started freaking out. And then as, you know, okay, so makeup artist arrived, hair person arrives, like everybody's arriving and they're asking, where's Darcel? And then they're looking in the studio workshop and I'm there like sewing, but I'm sewing a blue fabric. And they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just finishing this dress. And I've got my hair done. And they're like, now you got to go into makeup. I'm like, yeah, just let me stitch this or whatever. And Candy reaches at 10:30. And I was like, Candy, I got to go into makeup. Come with me. So she comes across. My mom lives next door, my mom and dad. So we go across there, get my makeup done. So Candy's like, well, you know, because she was going to do her own makeup. So I was like, no, do your makeup here. So she did her makeup with the makeup artist. And I was like, while you're doing your makeup, I'm going to run back over and finish hemming the dress. And basically the whole photography video team is standing there and they're like, are you ready to get dressed yet? I was like, no, I'm fine. It's all good. So they came into the studio and they basically like photographed me, videoed me, like sewing,
working on someone else's dress on your wedding day.
Like it was a whole normal day in the studio, you know. And then finally now my matron of honor, my other best friend, she walks in and she's like, this is enough. Come on and get dressed. So
yeah, I think the maid and the matron of honor, they should have been like taking turns like watching you, because look what happened.
They were holding down the fort elsewhere because they were making sure everybody else's dresses were steamed and ready to go. Because I'm a person that's like, I'll do it. But they really did like, pick up the slack for me and do that. And then, you know, the rest of the family were making sure, okay, the kids are ready and whatever. So I jumped in my dress and I was like, right, let's go. And I just had to lace up Candy, give Candy a quick steam. And now these videos are circulating and everyone thinks I'm crazy. But I really sat and thought about it. And I was like, you know what? No. On a day where I was so unsure of what would happen and like you're stepping into new territory, I fell back on something that I was certain about. And what I know is skill. I know what I can do. I know that I can make a dress in 3 hours if I have to. And I would not have taken apart my friend's dress if I didn't know that she trusted me and if I didn't know that I would get it done. She actually ended up like being a total showstopper at the wedding. I don't know, Ricardo was there. What did you think?
Yeah, I have to answer very carefully because as you pointed out earlier, I am spoken for. But listen, the VDV the VDV lineup was amazing. With your permission, I will be posting that particular picture
Do
for
you
the guest
think I'll
because it
send you?
was
I'll send you the proper professional
right.
photo.
Yeah,
So it's
because
got a full line.
it was crazy. Like you actually seeing at different points in the day certain gowns passing, and you're like, that's nice. That is really nice. And then you find out, oh yeah, they're all Darcels. Like the showstoppers are all Darcels. No disrespect
Yeah.
to the other guests, but
No,
you
no,
could
no.
tell because the VDV was on display. There was like this a kind of copper, rusty brown
The
kind of
orange. That was my cousin. Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
and then there was blue, and then it was like, and I'm in the wedding, and I almost didn't come seriously because
Because you didn't have a VDV.
I didn't
outfit?
have the black suit, and I'm thinking it's like, oh my gosh, this is an industry wedding, and then I'm thinking I have to choose between Darcel being upset because I'm wearing tan, naked leather Mexican shoes. I ain't gonna lie, I love those shoes, but it was between that and not going. And I figured, you know what? I'd get in a lot more trouble if I didn't go.
No. I wanted people to be there. I didn't want people to fuss that they didn't have something to wear because the dress code was supposed to be formal black tie.
Right.
But at the same time, we're kind of outdoors and it's humid, and some people don't have black tie, and that's fine. Even my bridesmaids, I didn't fuss. Their own, because we're all grown women. We're all in our 30s. Some of us have kids and building businesses and all of this kind of stuff. I'm not gonna fuss about what you wear. I told my bridesmaids, guys, this is the color. Wear any shade of purple you want, any dress you want. They're grown women. I know they were gonna nail it, and they actually lined up looking like we planned it.
Right.
It was beautiful.
Which was good for your mental health.
Yeah, I'm not gonna fuss on that.
Yeah.
I want brides really. Some of my clients really get themselves into these spaces where they've lost focus of what's important, and I had to keep reminding myself, do not get into that space. Like, do not worry about something that people are not going to be concerned with on the day, and you are not going to be concerned with a year later. You know. So that's. I mean, I'm not gonna fuss about what my bridesmaids are wearing. Like, if they're comfortable, then they will look beautiful. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to look beautiful. I am not one of those, nobody can look better than me at my wedding, you know. No, dude, I'm VDV. I know how I'm going to look at my wedding.
Yes. Confidence. Service.
Blame emoji.
So, I mean, in your line of work, you, as you rightly said, you would see a lot of stressed women in particular, or even a lot of stressful things. But I'm also assuming you would see things that would upset you within your line of work and even outside of that. So that kind of leads us into our next segment, which is what's boiled your water. So what has gotten you upset, or what is a pet peeve of yours? Because of course, managing that is also key to your mental health.
Right. So I thought about this question a lot when you sent it. I think I thought about it wrong because I was thinking about generally what's a pet peeve of mine.
No, generally as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've come up with 4, and they're all contrary. I realize that you can't actually have a pet peeve without pissing someone off, because feathers are going to be ruffled by what you have to say. So I mean, you can pick one, and then we go down the road. One of my pet peeves, since we're talking about industry and the work that I do, one of my pet peeves is I don't like to be called a local designer. I actually don't like the word. I don't like the word local in that context. I don't like the word local when it precedes designer, artist, anything like that, particularly as a creative. And I have reasons for it. People think that it's unpatriotic. People think that I'm unsupportive of the local scene. That absolutely is not what it is. The word local, and probably because of the way I grew up, but the word local is limiting as far as I'm concerned.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, because for example, when we look at Europe, when we look at America, when you look at the designers and creatives coming out of those bigger countries, nobody says local. Nobody says, local designer Donna Karan or whoever, even Oscar de la Renta. He's from the Caribbean. He was from the Caribbean, God bless his soul. But
never knew that.
He was from the Caribbean, and nobody was going around going local designer Oscar de la Renta. No. So for me, it's more of an aspirational thing, but it's also that I'm not only from Trinidad. I am from other places as well. So when you say local designer, what are you implying? Are you implying that I am only Trini? Because that's not true. Are you implying that I only cater to Trini? Because that is not true. I have international clients as well. I'm not locally trained. I am trained in Europe. And I didn't start here. I started somewhere else. So
Mhm.
it's a little, I will say, offensive, but I don't mean it
It's a
as
bit of a
strong.
misrepresentation of you.
Yes. And I think, and if it is that you mean that I'm local in that I'm located here, why can't we say
Yeah.
locally based designer? Why can't we say
Locally based.
Trinidadian
Yeah.
designer? Why can't we just say designer? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, as a creative, when you in the creative realm, there are no limits. Like there's no boundaries. And as soon as you put an adjective in front of the word designer or artist or whatever, you have created boundaries. So when you
Yeah.
say designer, designer could be anything. You could be an interior designer, you could be a fashion designer, you could be anything. But when you say
Mhm.
designer, the world is your oyster. As soon as you put
Right.
that adjective in front of it, you've created limitations. You know,
Mhm,
so that's how I
mhm,
feel
mhm.
about the word local, because also we come from an island. We come from a Caribbean island, and even though that connotation is changing, truth of the matter is when you go out on an international stage and you say, "Oh, a local designer from Trinidad," they think coconut bras, sarongs, hibiscus,
Right. Correct.
and I am so I do custom bridal wear with a corsetry specialty. I mean, nobody thinks of a Trinidadian designer doing that. Like if you say a fashion designer from
Yeah.
Trinidad, that's not what people abroad are gonna think. They already have their preconceived
The
notions
preconceived
about what
notions.
we
Yeah.
do. So why would we help them with those
Right.
stereotypes? Why would we assist them with that and not big up our own people by just saying designer? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter where she's from or what she's doing. The point is she's an artist, she's a designer, he's an artist, he's a designer. Art has no boundaries. It's a language that is spoken all over the world. Art is art. Why do we need to limit it to a specific place or time or whatever when
I
that's not
think
what the artist is trying to do?
I've never ever thought about it before, probably because I'm not an artist. So I'm really appreciative of that
Right.
that viewpoint. I think there's something about us being small as a country that we always want to fight for claim.
Right.
We want to make sure we can claim those who could potentially or those who are doing well. So I remember I didn't know about Heather Headley. Prior to when she made it big, and she had her Broadway run and all of that, and that's when you started hearing Trinidadian born. Because we want to. I don't think she identified herself as Trinidadian born. Not that she was ashamed of us, but that just wasn't. She's Heather Headley. She's an actress. She's a musician. That was what it was.
She's thinking beyond that. Like that's kind of
when we write about her. When we wrote about her, we were Trinidadian born. I think it's because we want to be able to claim. So for me, when I hear like if anybody's saying, Darcel de Vlugt, Trinidadian or local, I think it's because we're trying to make sure because we know, hey, you are blowing up and we want to make sure that we can claim you. But you're right, because people don't really know your story. So would they know that you grew up in all these places and that you would have done the things that you've done, and that I didn't know corsetry was your specialty. I'm learning so much about you. Anyway,
but actually, are we talking about pet peeves? So you say, okay, for example, I'll mention the race conversation since that's been such a hot topic in recent times. But as we're talking about pet peeves, there are people who are mixed race. I myself am mixed race. If I go out into the world and I had to choose between black, white, I would say I'm black. But I don't look it. But that's nothing to do with race. That's to do with a skin condition that I have.
That is not your fault.
Right. I mean, some people might say I'm white passing, and then I've had other. I mean, that skin conversation is a whole other thing. Maybe you could do another episode. But yeah, so people who are black and white mixed tend to get put in the black category.
Right.
It could depend on like how dark their melanin is or how curly their hair is or whatever, but most of the time they will look more black than white if they're black. I know I'm generalizing here, but it's just to make a point.
Oh, that's fine.
There are people who have said who are mixed race who have said, why must I deny my white side in order to embrace my blackness?
My black side, yeah.
That is how I feel when people say local designer, because yes, you want to claim me as Trini. That's a whole other pet peeve altogether, because Trinis like to claim when they like to claim, and they like to reject when they like to reject.
Exactly.
So, to me, that is of no import either way, because here today, gone tomorrow when it comes to Trinidad.
Yeah.
I love my people. I will never not represent Trinidad. Like, I would never go somewhere on an international stage and not say that I am here to represent Trinidad. I will always be here to represent Trinidad. There's several times that I've represented Trinidad even before I moved back home to live. And Trinidad never acknowledged me. They never claimed me. So it's just really funny to me that today you want to call me a local designer when,
Right.
you know, and at the same time, in calling me a local designer, you are dismissing the other parts of me, which is why I made that black-white point, is that, you know, I love Trinidad. I was born here. I lived here for 3 years before I left, and I have been back here for the last decade. My daughter is from here. My family is here. My passport says Trinidad on it. And right now I'm speaking to you with a Trini accent. But when I go away, I am just as much as at home in London. I am just as much at home in Cyprus. I can adapt and belong to any group. I belong to all groups and none of the groups at the same time. Yeah. And I am actually proud of that. Like, that's something that I actually love, the fact that I can go anywhere and do anything, and like I could shut my mouth and be who I want to be today.
Yeah. You know?
Sit on the bus in London and let them assume where I'm from until, you know, mommy calls or somebody calls, and then you hear this
accent.
You know? But when you say local designer, I'm just like, all I think in my mind is, but I'm so much more than that. And
there's so much more than that. And you've shown that.
You've shown that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is my pet peeve, but no disrespect to anybody who is called a local designer, because there is so much talent here. I just find we need to sometimes stop holding on to that needing to claim people. Let people do. Let people create. Let people be. And nobody is denying their Trininess when they go out there.
Right.
So we don't need the people to back us up in our Trininess. Like, when Trinis go abroad, we fly the flag high. We do.
Probably higher than people who are here. And I can say that because I went to school abroad.
Yeah, I am a bet. I can tell you, and I've said this to people before, and I would never say anything behind closed doors that I would not say publicly or to somebody's face. And like I said, it may offend, but I know where I'm coming from. I am a much better Trini when I'm out of Trinidad than when I'm in Trinidad. I
think all of us.
Flag flying high, and we all know it. And we always say, don't bad talk Trinidad to everybody else. Listen, being patriotic does not mean only bigging up the good things about your country and ignoring where change is needed, or ignoring where there's crime or corruption or whatever. Speaking truth. Another pet peeve I wanted to tell you in that whole thing.
Tell me about it.
When you were talking about Heather Headley and stuff, you know what I don't like? Every year or every couple years, there's like a new actor comes out. Yeah. You know, let's say Black Panther, or something happens, a new person that we suddenly recognize they have some Trini, and we're like, they're putting Trinidad on the map. Listen to me.
Yeah.
How many times do people need to put us on the map for us to recognize that we have been on the map, people? We don't need nobody to put us on the map. We appreciate what they've done. Miss Universe, West Indies cricket team, whatever it is. We've been on the map. Can we stop acting like this is a new thing? Somebody put us on the map. No. Because it feels like we're begging, and we're not begging. We don't need to beg. Trinidad has some amazing accomplishments and some of the greatest talent that I've ever seen in the world. So can we stop getting excited when somebody puts us on the map, and can we just ride that wave of momentum and keep it going? You know, let me just keep it going. That's all.
I think that's absolutely well said. Because, you know, we're 60. So in the grand scheme of things, we're young, but it's 2022.
Yeah.
You know, it's 2022. Can we try to get some things right?
Yes.
I absolutely agree
in everything. We are in everything. So there's nobody who needs to put us on the map.
Listen, everything, everywhere. Remember when I went to, Howard, HU, and we had homecoming, because I always tell people, Howard is the 4th campus of UE.
Right.
Because that's how I felt when I went there. There were so many Trinidadians. I was like, well, I guess this is like UE. And for homecoming that year, they had Kess. And I was like, oh my goodness, Cass. Now, in Trinidad prior, I was like, okay, Cass, I like him, it's fine. I would not have rushed to shake Cass's hand or get his autograph or a picture. Who, with her gigantic Trinidad and Tobago flag, was at the front of the stage when Cass was performing? We are much better Trinis abroad than we are here, and I'm going to always quote you on that. I love it. Very well said.
But what I will say, and some people might have taken everything that I just said from a negative perspective, which it's not negative at all. It's just that I know we can do better. I know we can be better because I've seen it, and I know such amazing people. But what I will say is the Trinidad, once you have the Trinidad push behind you, I mean, unmatched. You know, it's a hard audience to please. But once Trinis are supporting you, go for it.
And I think you've definitely, and I use this term loosely, proven yourself over the past. That's why I use it. In terms of our previous discussion, I use it loosely. You are definitely, I think your star is consistently rising. It's not I think some people would look at you and they'd be like, oh, this is meteoric. Where was she before? And now she has this whole brand. You've been working.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like overnight success. Like you've been working and working very hard. As is evidenced by everything that you produce, we see.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And your brand really does speak for itself. And I love the fact that you've expanded. So it's not just bridal dresses, but you're doing accessories, and you've always done couture garments for others as well. As you just shared, 6 of your guests were in custom BDB for your wedding.
I try. You're bigging me up a lot here, and it's feeling a little uncomfortable because I feel like I'm still starting and I'm still trying. So yeah.
You know what? That is the Trini. That is the trying to be. I think
that's the creative. I think a true creative never actually believes that something is good and done and perfect. Yeah. Like a real
regardless of the fact that you have the proof to back it up. Which
I do have the failures as well. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, yeah, it's been great. No, there have been many failures that, and I know that there may be the few clients who might in the early, especially when you start out, because taking on bridal is no easy feat. It was a whole new world. Not so much about the actual dresses or the items or whatever, but you're dealing with some personalities and some emotions that are unmatched in any other field. So it's been a real roller coaster. And it's really something that tests you in terms of can you stick with it? Because there are people who've jumped into bridal, and as fast as you see them jump in, they jump back out. And I've heard some designers say, I won't touch bridal with a 10-foot pole. So that's to tell you, it is difficult. But apparently, what is that reel, Cardo, that I put the audio on Instagram when I put up the picture of all the VDV dresses? There was that audio. I don't want peace. I want problems.
I want problems.
Yeah, that's basically been my go-to audio, for the whole process, because everyone's like, you like problems, you like trouble, you hand stitch your lace piece by piece. What is wrong with you?
You know what you want, and you can do it. That's the difference, If you couldn't do it, it would have been something else, but you could do it. But I love to me, that shows humility as well, that you're willing to publicly say, hey, this has not always been the easiest journey, and I've not always been at this level. And I can only imagine, I remember reading somewhere, so you could always confirm if this was absolutely fake news. But I read that you were saying, when you got into bridal, it was primarily because you really like doing couture, and we don't have, I guess, the culture or the circumstances in terms of events where that would really allow you to showcase that or have numerous opportunities to be able to do that consistently. And the next best thing to a red carpet gown is a bridal gown. I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Yes.
Right?
It was strategic. The choice to do bridal was really strategic because, growing up in the Mediterranean and Europe, compared to what fashion is like over here in the Caribbean, it's apples and oranges. It's two totally different things. So when I came back to Trinidad, I was actually, I would say, uncomfortable a little bit, because even though I brought my Caribbeanness into my work when I was in Europe, when I was studying, my final year project was I did like a version of Pirates of the Caribbean. So I did like a little mini capsule collection that was based on that sort of idea of Pirates of the Caribbean, but like that Caribbean flair. Yeah, you bring it in color and you bring it in whatever into your clothing. But now you come back to Trinidad and it was like, okay, my final year, I did a lot of corsetry for my elective, which is like, I guess, the minor, you major minor. So like for my elective, I did millinery, which is hat making. And here I am now in a nation that wears t-shirts and slippers to go in the bank and
pretty much.
Swimwear. Like if you aren't doing carnival, and then as far as dresses go, everything is flowy and not fitted. Everything is billowing in the wind and tie-dyed and hand-painted, and it's beautiful, but like how many times can we see the same pattern on the runway? Because I'm sorry to burst people's bubbles, but a lot of the resort wear that we see, not now, I would say like 10 years ago when I came home, but a lot of the things that would impress us is actually just a lot of voluminous fabric cut into 2 triangles sewn down the middle, and it's not a lot of design work that has gone into it. And what used to annoy me was the deception to Joe Public, because people would be oohing and eyeing over something that does not.
We don't know.
They don't know. And then that can become really problematic now when people come to you and want to question your prices or question your process. And it's like you have to untrain them from what they've been used to. Like, I did not have a serger in university. I did not own one. I did not know how to use one. There was the one in the school that they would allow us to use, but I did not have one. So I, with my fast self, was like, well, I am going to learn to line everything. So I used to make 2 of each garment, because when you're lining something, that's what you do. You make the outside, inside, and then put them together and line it. Me thinking that this was normal. This is how you do things. I came to my first fashion show in the Caribbean. I remember we went, no, not my first fashion show. Was it? It was one of the times that I went to the Bahamas, and there was a designer there. And I, on my little domestic sewing machine, lined everything, bag out my pockets and like all kind of stuff. And they were dressing their model on backstage, and the model was up on a table getting dressed, and they fluffed her dress. And I looked at the inside. I saw the inside, and I was like, they haven't even serged their edges. They haven't nothing. And then I felt like I am such a fool, because I've like sat.
You're out here doing extra.
But at the same time, I mean, God is in everything, but I was teaching myself to do something that was actually a skill beyond what I needed to bring me to this point. So now I can work without a serger, or I can serge. But when I started realizing that people don't care about if you hand stitch your hem, or if you stitch your hem, or if you serge your hem. So where you would charge like $800 for one and $200 for another, they want to pay the $200, just serge the thing now.
Basically.
Except that I'm very fussy about paying respect to the craft. So I will continue to hand stitch my hems, and y'all can either afford the price or not afford the price, but I'm not.
And that's something that I say to people all the time. You don't know people's skill or the level of training that would have afforded them to get to this point. So a lot of, in Trinidad, one thing that we don't run out of is the audacity. And so people will always say, so much for that? Are you doing it?
The bold-faced audacity.
The bold-faced audacityness.
That's the best price. What you could do for that.
What you could do for that. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that it is a little disrespectful. Sometimes very disrespectful to the person. That's why I said sometimes very. I mean, it's quite disrespectful to the person to whom you're speaking, because not only are you paying for what you see in front of you, you're paying for the time it took to get there in terms of creating it, but also you would have spent time, energy, resources to be trained to get to this point where you can charge X amount. So as you rightly say, you either can do it or you can't. And if you can't make that price, then you say thank you so much and you keep it moving.
Yeah, I reached
You
a point
know?
in my business where I'm not begging for business. And when I say I'm not begging for business, I don't mean from a financial standpoint. COVID was hard. We all need to make some
Yeah.
money.
You
All
would have
lost
taken a
money.
huge blow as a fashion
Yeah,
designer.
but again,
Mm-hmm.
praise the Lord. I do everything myself. I don't have a staff. So from
Right.
start to finish, absolutely everything you see on my page was touched by these hands, was made by these hands. Nobody else
Mm-hmm.
did it. That is a strength, and at the same time it can be a weakness because it means I do overwork myself where I could probably
Yes.
outsource. But one thing that is very important to me is being part of the process, because when a piece leaves
Mm-hmm.
my studio, it's a piece of me that I'm giving to somebody. And
Yeah.
when you are a bride, and especially as a woman of God, it is really important to me that in whatever way I can, and it doesn't matter what religious background my brides come from, but since I was saved, it's been really important to me that the process of making somebody's wedding gown is a lot, it entails a lot more than just making a dress that fits.
Yeah.
I'm really, really particular about what plays in my studio while I'm making a bridal gown. I'm really particular about, like, I wash my hands like every 20 minutes because you're dealing with white fabrics and stuff. So people
Yeah.
don't know what actually goes into that being made. You know, I am praying while I'm going worship music. I'm praying because we're talking about a woman becoming a wife, and I get to be part of that little piece in between, you know.
Yeah.
And that is such a huge part for me. And before, it used to be, yeah, it's strategic, I'm doing bridal so that it can justify charging what my skill costs. But
Yeah.
now it's more just strategic. This is a ministry, this is a connection.
You've walked into your purpose. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're making a connection with somebody who's making probably the most significant transition in their life, where two are becoming one. And I mean, that is a huge responsibility. It's a huge honor and privilege. And since I started looking at my work from that perspective, and now also since being a bride myself, so when people want to question the process, hear what? If you're just concerned about getting an affordable dress, honestly, I never try
I'm
to
not for you.
for nobody. I would, if I really can't do, and before I never used to say no, you know, in an effort to please people, I used to dig holes for myself, trying to do things that I was not equipped to do, right? I have learned skills that are, like maybe a little more, they're not necessarily like high street, like walk into a boutique and just buy this thing. Let me tell. Okay, I got honors on my jacket tailoring part of my degree, and the t-shirt part of the degree. You know, like a t-shirt, like front, back, sleeves. I got a pass. Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. Do not go by Darcel de Vlugt for t-shirts.
For t-shirts. No, like seriously, my brain can't process simple things because I'm always thinking that there needs to be more. Now that doesn't need to mean that like a dress can't be minimal, because that's where the expert tailoring comes in. But what I'm saying is, like, I am concerned about the process. I love the process. If you just want a dress and you just want it by next week, I'm probably not the person you want to come to, because I am not a manufacturing facility. I am not a factory. I'm not a sweatshop worker, and I am not a seamstress. If I hate being called a local designer, I hate being assumed to be a seamstress. You want a pants?
Not local designer, not seamstress. Check.
Not a seamstress. And people want to know, well, what is the difference? Don't you sew? Yes, I do. I have the skills to sew, but I am also a designer is a person who puts form to function. A seamstress is a technician who basically makes something fit you. So people will buy a seamstress with a picture and they'll be like, I want that dress. And she will take your measurements and she will make that dress. And she does not care, and you aren't concerned about whether it suits you, about whether it's for you. What you bring her the fabric, she will sew it, and the transaction is complete.
Right.
I leave my studio looking bust up. All right, because my name is on it. So when you come by me,
that's right.
I am not here to sew what you tell me, because I studied design, you did not. And a lot of people come and they think something looks good on them and they don't have the creative input to let them know, hey, you have slightly wider hips. So a silhouette like this might not be the most flattering. And then we're talking about your wedding day. So that's what I'm for, is to help put form to function. Do we want this to be comfortable? Do we want this to be dramatic? A seamstress is not going to be concerned with those things. She's a technician. So I don't like being, and this again, no disrespect to that profession. That is an amazing skill. But it's the difference between the construction worker and the architect. The construction worker is just simply putting the house together. But the architect is the person who is designing all the different parts and making sure that there's harmony. You know? So that's kind of, you wouldn't ask Gordon Ramsay to make you mac and cheese, you know? So yeah, just don't do it.
So, I mean, you said something just a little while ago about learning to say no. And that is something that a lot of us struggle with, specifically women, but it's also one of the skills that I actually do encourage my clients to employ, sometimes in terms of their stress management. So you actually touched a little bit on our next segment, which is, just talking about your mental health. As a new, well, you've been a mom, but as a new mom of 3, and as a wife and as a fashion designer, those all have high levels of stress. What's your mental health like, and how do you manage it?
Well, I think I'm the poster child for stress. If you really research vitiligo and the triggers of the skin condition, etc., mine is actually stress induced. Because of the circumstances surrounding living in Cyprus, etc. When I was that age. So my mom, my brother, and I were actually separated from my dad due to his job at that time. And obviously being away from Trinidad and the whole rest of our family, it was just sort of like a physiological, psychological response that I have this autoimmune condition where my body, the blood cells, I think it's the white blood cells, they're actually attacking the melanin. So that melanin in my body started disappearing. You can see like little spots on my face that have been covered and stuff. But like I say, that's a whole other story. But stress is basically a huge thing in my life, managing it, coming under stress. And I've now in the last, like especially over COVID, everybody had a lot of time to reflect. But I'm now coming to terms with the fact that I am in my late 30s. Not ashamed of it. I'm in my late 30s.
You don't look it.
Thank you. And a lot of my life has been about coping mechanisms for stress. So even things like making a dress on the morning of my wedding day. I mean, to me, some people be like, that's superhuman. And to me, that's me. But at the same time, I need to start recognizing where things that I've learned to do successfully or efficiently, sometimes, Darcel, it doesn't have to be like that. Like, sometimes have you realized that this is your level of functioning, and for you, it's normal, but it's actually not normal. Like this is a good thing. So now having like other people depending on me, my husband and these 3 girls, is not about me. And I can't like push myself to these limits where like, oh, if I fail, I fail. No. There's other people who require me to be at a certain level of peace in order for everything to flow and for them to have peace. And I don't want to pass my love of stress onto my children. I don't want to pass that on to people and have them thinking that they must be like that in order to succeed as well. You know, I don't consider myself to be successful. I just consider myself to be getting it done. Just get it done, you know? So yeah, in terms of mental health, like in terms of stress, I'm now figuring some stuff out. I don't know how we program 30 odd years of doing things a certain way. The idea of sitting in front of the TV to just watch a show, Darcel. You don't have to be making anything. You don't have to be, your hands don't have to be busy. You don't have to be
just unwind.
Just watch the show. You know?
Just watch the show.
I need to train myself to do those things, you know? But it's fine. I mean, my husband is helping me with that, and I'm learning slowly. At the same time, I'm kind of like, Lord, you gave me these skills, you gave me these talents, you know, fill me up to overflow and let me die on empty kind of thing. So while I can and while I have the ability, I want to go ahead and do it. In terms of mental health, I would say I'm better today than I have been ever at any period in my life.
Awesome.
I have more going on now than I ever had.
That's fantastic.
And that's so honestly Short answer, God. There's no other reason but the peace of the Lord to get you through that.
Listen, nothing else. And how do you unwind if you know how?
I don't so much unwind as I switch off. I honestly,
Right.
like, sometimes I come to a point where I'm just like, that's it. I'm done for
Yeah.
today. Phone is off. The kitchen is closed. The kids laugh at me because like, if you ask my stepdaughters, I say bonus daughters. I don't like that word.
Bonus daughters. Yeah, I'm with
You
you.
ask my bonus daughters, like, what happens to Auntie Darcel after 5 p.m. and they because they were with me a lot during online schooling while my fiance at the time was working and stuff, and they know after 5 p.m. don't ask her anything. Her brain has switched off. Right? So don't come with any.
So you have cut-off periods.
Yeah. No existential questions. No kind of no.
Why is the sky blue?
Yeah, we can have. Oh no, that's my daughter. Why is the sky blue? Is my and it's like 2 seconds before she falls asleep. It's like she's falling asleep, and then she'd be like, "Mommy, were there dinosaurs in the Garden of Eden? Listen to me."
I love it.
I tell you, the go-to answer has become, write it down and ask Jesus when you get there.
Winning.
Yeah.
Winning. But
I think I switch off more than wind down. Like, I literally have one thing I'm really grateful for with my husband, and this is all while we were courting, and it was especially important because of COVID. Our entire relationship was lived through COVID.
Right.
So now that we are married, like, we always had date night. Date night is non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
We have date night once every 2 weeks, which is when the children are by their other parents.
Right.
And we've coordinated it that, okay, kid-free house, date night, you know? Obviously, during COVID, date night could only go so far, you know. Actually, with quarantining and stuff, at first, we were just using some of those platforms that allow you to, like, watch a show at the same time.
Right.
And stuff. Mm-hmm. While being on video with each other. And then it would be like, okay, we get a movie or we get some food. We'd order in, get some food and chill and whatever. But to be honest, like, how much can you really do? So that was a whole couple years of COVID while both of us are working, managing our households. And now we are married, and we just had our first date night and we went out. Like, it's a little bit backwards, but we like it. It's working for us. So the date night is something that we have decided is non-negotiable. It is scheduled into our time. We don't intend to stop dating now that we're married. And
shouldn't.
Work has a cutoff time. His work has a cutoff time. My work has a cutoff time. And we know that this is our unplugged time to connect with each other, probably catch up on sleep as well, and reset the house for the next day when the kids. It's important. And I appreciate that our family members respect it. They know that we need it. And that's one thing I could definitely point out that helps with the mental health aspect, is where even if we're disagreeing on something, even if we're both stressed out, having a rough day, we know that date night is my time to be that place of peace for my partner, and other way around as well. Yeah.
Darcel, well, it seems like you have the mental health aspect pretty much unlocked. You have your boundaries. You're ensuring that you spend quality time with loved ones. You know, that's all of those things go a really long way in managing your mental health. And I'm really appreciative of you for sharing that with us. So as we look to wrap up, is there anything you'd like our viewers to know about any upcoming projects or just in general?
First of all, don't think because of all of this that life is perfect. Send food.
Nope, didn't get that impression. Always food. Always food.
I got 3 kids, y'all. Send food, send help. But yeah, no. Anything that I'd like to wrap up with, honestly, we need to stop looking at big mountains in our lives and thinking that we have to conquer these mountains. Because this world has become too fast. When I say too fast, everybody's always striving for the next thing and topping this person's achievement and one-upping that person. And while it's really great motivation to have that kind of competition to, like, spur you on, like, let me do the next thing, like, how can I be great? At the same time, I think we need to embrace the greatness of just getting through every day. How can I be great today? Not to the world, but even just to my home. Like, how can I be of value to my home? And in doing that, you know, I can help my kids be great. I can set my husband up for success. I can even set myself up for success, because being too concerned with what everybody else thinks of you and trying to please everybody else, and tomorrow they chew you up and spit you out like nobody's business. So instead of looking at these big mountains that everybody wants to conquer, entrepreneurship is like the hot trending thing now. Everybody has to be an entrepreneur. I got 6 businesses. I have 2 businesses, but you're
Darcel shouting at me. All
all
right,
caps. All caps.
All right.
But you're like everybody's trying to grab the next best thing.
Yeah.
But my thing, just do the next thing. Like, just do whatever is the next thing on your list. Do that, because looking at this big thing is really intimidating. And to be quite honest, when we get there, what are we gonna do? It's like a dog barking at a car. Like, what would you do if you caught it?
Yeah.
Who knows?
What would you do?
Yeah. So let's just bring it down a little bit. Let's just slow down a little bit, and let's just work on having a successful day instead of worrying so much about a successful life or a successful career. I think that's the best way to take on what's been happening these days.
Yeah, and the thing is, ironically, by taking it day by day, you actually do create that successful life.
Exactly. You look back 40
Yeah.
years past, and you actually have some memories and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's kind of what I tell my brides too, is about enjoying the process, because with my brides, I tell them the wedding planning is a marriage rehearsal. Because if you can get thrown off and upset by the color of your linens, like, it's really going to be a precursor to how you deal with little and big things that the enemy throws at you in your mind, So yeah.
Darcel, thank you so much. This has been exciting, enlightening. It has been a pleasure. And I really do hope that one day in the future, that God will bless me so that you can tell me these gems face to face when you're making my dress. Anyway, so
girl, you don't need to get
slide that
married.
in there.
Come get a dress. Come by the studio anytime. We'll chat.
You're
We'll
right,
play.
girl. We'll make a date. I like it. Ricardo's laughing because he knows how long I've been waiting for this. But thank you so much again, Darcel, for being with us. We really, really appreciate you. And now you are officially a friend of the show, and we hope that we'll be able to have you back at some time in the near future.
Anytime. It would be my pleasure. It's all that this was fun, because like we didn't speak about the usual superficial. How did you get started in fashion?
So I'm very happy about that, and I feel very content. This was really good. Thank you so much. You definitely gave us a lot to think about, and I love how you just kind of fused mental health and your faith, everything together. I really appreciate that, and we look forward to seeing you again. So everyone, thank you for tuning in. Remember, we are here to normalize mental health discussions. So make sure that you're having that discussion as well. Thank you for your time. Take care, stay safe, and see you next episode. Bye. And scene.